eyes were focused on the ceiling. Her feet were bare and blue with cold. As we drove inland, my dad struggled for things to say. Eventually, he gave up and fiddled with the radio. He found music, but it was sad. Then he found the news. A reporter spoke about a river that had swelled over its banks after days of rain somewhere in Alabama. Several families had been overtaken in the night when river water rushed into their house. All of them had drowned. It was their own fault, I finally said. What's that? Those people. How could they go to bed with water rising all around them? My dad turned the radio off. Lucky would never have done anything so stupid. He lived to take risks, but he knew all about danger. He'd studied it till he was an expert. He knew about tide charts and compasses and wind direction and rogue waves and offshore currents and avalanches and riptides. He knew all of that stuff. So how does a guy like that drown? Why didn't someone save him? Lucky had a million friends. Where was everyone? A man in a white lab coat with a defeated demeanor and eyebrows like black caterpillars led us to a cold room lit with flickering fluorescent lights. Lucky was laying on a metal table with a white sheet draped over him. My dad and I stood on either side of him. He looked as calm as I'd ever seen him. His stillness was more disturbing to me than anything. Lucky lived in a constant state of motion. He never slept much, but he never seemed tired. Sleep was a waste of time for him. He went to bed late and got up early. He embraced all those tired bumper sticker slogans: make today amazing, smile and let it go, life is a highway, be where you are, blah, blah, blah. I'm nothing like that. I take refuge in sleep. Sometimes I sleep 10 hours at a stretch. For me, sleep is a place to hide. There was a greenish raised bruise on Lucky's forehead with a jagged crimson line running through it, probably from his surfboard. His old scars had taken on a purplish hue and stood out more than before against his pale skin, especially the one on his chin. Stitches from I don't remember what fall. I noticed that the thin black cord that he always wore around his neck with the silver charm that said fearlessness in Sanskrit was gone. I wondered if maybe it was in an official manila envelope with his diving watch and anything else they found on the body. Maybe they handed it to you like on TV. Here's what's left of a life, the man in the lab coat would say solemnly. Looking at Lucky, I thought of all the times I'd said to him, I wish you were dead. I said it so often that it meant nothing to him. He'd never said anything so mean to me, even when I went crazy and did awful things, even when I ruined birthday parties and family dinners and vacations. My dad left the room before I did. He was pale and shaking. He sat on the wooden bench in the corridor with his face in his big weathered hands. I could see him through the window in the viewing room. Lucky, I whispered, bringing my face close to his until a sour chemical smell burned my nostrils. Lucky, wake up. I ran my finger through one of his sun-bleached blonde curls, and then I touched his lips. They felt like cool paper. If he were alive, he'd for sure have bitten my finger. Anger washed over me. I resented being left behind. I was always the one left behind. How many times had I said goodbye to my brother? Hundreds, probably. The thing that bugged me the most was that I knew I wasn't enough. I could already feel the gaping hole he'd left that I couldn't even begin to fill. And what about me? How would I cope without Lucky to hide behind? People here knew that if they said things about me, they would have to contend with Lucky eventually. He always came to my rescue. Now what would I do? Why'd you have to die, asshole? I blurted, and I turned and started to leave, but then I couldn't. My last words had to mean something. I tried to think of something to say. Maybe something about life's journey or how I would always remember him. It all sounded so trite in my head. I thought maybe I should tell him I'd see him in heaven.